IRA from First Rule and Film. He usually has his white lab coat on, and
most times
we pull him out of the basement once a week to tell us what he's working on. You go down there, and he's got all these graduated beakers and smoke coming out, and it's a world down there. You allowed me into your lair the other day,
yes,
and put on some virtual reality glasses.
Pretty neat stuff, isn't it?
I couldn't stand up. Right? I mean, is that a normal reaction people have?
Initially, yes. You know, they've got to get used to images that your brain's seeing, and your brain is believing these images,
right?
But they're not actually what's around. Like in your case, we had you on a roller coaster. So your brain was receiving these virtual reality images saying, I'm on a roller coaster, but you're standing still.
Right.
Which is a little bit disconcerting.
And I mean, I was literally had my hands out trying to hold on to something, and then at one point, I stepped because I almost fell over.
Yeah, it's a very convincing thing. You know, as we were talking about before, actually, before we came on the radio, Sony just announced a VR headset for PlayStation,
right?
Which was $399. So it's really they're coming out really fast this year.
All right, you just got back from where?
Well, I didn't actually get to go, but I knew some friends that went down to South by Southwest in Austin. It's an annual convention that started back in 1987, and it mainly was meant for film and music at the time, but since has brought on interactive media and tech.
Right.
So basically what it's been in the last couple of years is really where Silicon Valley and Hollywood go to party, essentially, in Nashville for the music scene.
All right.
And so there's always some interesting announcements there. This year they actually had President Obama did the keynote that started everything off, talking to the tech industry about kind of his goals and what he thinks we need to work on. But what was interesting is what kind of was brought to the scene. There's always some tech announcements there. And unlike Consumer Electronics Show, which we saw in January, where they talk about TVs and phones and a lot of consumer electronics, this is kind of more pie-in-the-sky R&D, like what could happen.
So this is the cutting edge of the world.
Experiments and things like that.
This is the edge of the universe.
To give you an idea of the type of people that are there, Mophie, which is the company that makes little cases for your phone's battery chargers, they brought back what they called Mophie Rescue, which is a whole bunch of St. Bernards running around Austin's with phone chargers around their necks.
Really?
Yeah. It's a funny thing. If you're watching the stream, you might be able to see it. It's a neat idea, but that gives you an idea of the type of people that are going to Austin. They're so threatened by not having power to their phone that they have to have rescue dogs running around with phone chargers.
That is comedy. Now, do they really have those rescue dogs?
They do. They do.
In Austin, they have dogs walking around with batteries.
Only for South by Southwest. But
wow.
Yes, neat
that is
stuff.
Funny.
So
all right, good.
Really, the company that really had a great showing at South by Southwest this year was Sony. Sony, again, had the VR headset for PlayStation. Very interesting. But they also announced things that were really, really cool. They showed off something called Tabletop, which you've seen similar things in the past, but this thing was amazing. Essentially what it was is it's a short throw projection system that allows you to lay, in this case, they laid Alice in Wonderland, the book, literally on the table.
Right.
And it's actually able to recognize that that's Alice in Wonderland, and it brings out images from Alice in Wonderland, or you can highlight text in the book. And then on the table, it projects those images and allows you to interact with it. So imagine
it's a real book.
It is a real book laid on the table. It's a real pack of cards.
It's a book, for those who are listening on the radio, it's a book. Is it an old book? So is this something you attach to an old book?
Yeah, no, this is just like it's a system that has recognition. So good.
So any book you currently have, you could buy this, and it would bring your book to life.
Exactly. Or anything else. Now, again, a book is a great example because, again, as a teaching tool or something else, you could use that to show kids, get them excited about reading. But you could also obviously do the projection system with calendar events, any social media ideas. The real cool thing about this is that they tied in not only a projection system that knows what's on the wall and knows what it's seeing and projecting on top of, but also creates a touch screen out of that surface. So, it's projecting on a wall, and I can just go up and touch the wall.
So whereas the projectors are really expensive, right? Regular projectors. And they're not touch screen.
They're not.
So this thing is ability to turn whatever you have, your book, your computer, your deck of cards, into a projection on a wall, and then you can touch the wall, and it'll change the screen or whatever else you want to do.
Which is really, really cool.
It's almost like that Minority Report kind of.
It is kind of. It knows where your hands are, and it's able to touch it. Now, I'll tell you.
That's a Sony deal.
Yes. So Sony has a couple things. They also had, again, because they came out with announcement after announcement after announcement, they came up with these headphones. I'm not sure about this, or necklace. I'm not sure if this is really going to go anywhere.
Right.
It's essentially a necklace with a whole bunch of mics and speakers in it, and even a camera. And basically, their idea was people didn't like Google Glass, where you've got a headset that has all this information there. Maybe you want to wear something around your neck.
Right.
So it's literally like a neck band that then you can talk to. It can respond. I'm not sure if that's necessarily needed. They call that the Sony Arc. But it's interesting to see the wearable technologies kind of evolve.
You could hide it in a collar.
You could. Yeah, it's fairly
And
small.
people wear headphones like that all the time.
Exactly, so they might not know. I think that's the idea, is that the Google Glass is very obvious when you're wearing something.
Yeah.
This is a little less obvious.
Well, then you have those idiots wearing around those little Bluetooth things in their ear. So, I mean, this is a little less intrusive than that.
Same idea. Well, and alongside that, this projector here, which is another projection system built by Sony, it actually is a sound-based projector. So they made a system that could project an image on the wall and have sound bounce off that point, such that you think that's where the sound's coming from. Which, again, you can imagine in VR or even in movies. That could be really, really neat. Direct positional sound.
That is
pretty neat stuff, right?
How far is this from actually coming to market?
Well, all the VR headsets from Oculus, Vive, and Sony's are all hitting this year around May. And you see companies such as Star Wars, Industrial Light and Magic, making full Star Wars experiences with VR, so you'll be able to actually have the lightsaber in your hand for the first time ever.
I could see that book thing taking off, turning your book into a, I don't know it's a multimedia.
You want to get kids interested in books. You want to get them interested in old literature. Right now, it's kind of a hard uphill battle.
Right.
If you set Oliver Twist on the table, and all of a sudden it comes to life.
Well, if you're reading a tablet, it's one thing to have a video in the tablet, but this is a book that you're turning into a tablet, more or less.
It's crazy.
Wow.
You're adding interactivity to old media.
Larry Stendebach with First Rule R&D. All right, put your lab coat on. Get back to work.
Yes, sir.